In 2012, a film in which a jaded Christmas elf turned superhero who must fulfill a child's wish while also protecting her family from a gang of thieves was released upon the world. The movie was called Elfman, and the title character was played by the one and only Jason "Wee-Man" Acuna. Described as a poor man's Home Alone by the one critic who actually reviewed it, Elfman was already worth taking a look back on. But it turns out that the production company behind this movie attempted to sue over 300 people in what might have been one of the sloppiest copyright lawsuits in entertainment history. So sit back, pour yourself some eggnog, grab a slice of fruitcake, and let's talk about Elfman.
I am Elfman!
Elfman is one of those movies that gets weird before you even begin to watch it. First of all, this is a Christmas movie with children as its target audience, featuring a jackass cast member as its star. But that's not even the strangest aspect of this movie. The director who also co-wrote the script was Ethan Wiley, who previously wrote the classic horror movie House, and was the director and writer for its sequel. Ethan was also involved with the creature effects on Return of the Jedi and Gremlins, the latter of which being a much better Christmas movie than Elfman. But the movie starts out on Christmas Eve at the home of the Harper family, who are rushing to get the house decorated before their grandma arrives. But luckily, grandma drives at a speed of like 1/2 mile per hour and should absolutely have her license revoked. Like, this woman is a danger to society. The father of the family, Eric, played by Mackenzie Aston, has been busy inventing a computer chip that generates enough electricity to single-handedly power an entire home.
Dad, that's awesome! But we gotta get the house decorated before Grandma gets here.
Oh.
This kid's father will probably be honored as one of the greatest inventors of all time, and that was his first reaction? I'd be like, listen son, forget about how the house looks because you're sleeping outside tonight. After a 72-hour commute, Grandma finally pulls up to the house and gifts the kids the most disgusting-looking fruitcake of all time. And this is where the cheesiness level of the film gets cranked up to a maximum level. So the dad goes into town to fetch a ham for Christmas dinner. Meanwhile, he's being followed by a sketchy flower van. But don't get too excited because these are not the wet bandits.
Crowbars up.
It turns out that Eric's wife and the mother of his children passed away a few years earlier. And a ham isn't the only thing he's looking to pick up from the butcher, because his love interest in the film, Amy, works there as well. This scene was truly bizarre. Like, these two were just awkwardly flirting in front of a line of people on Christmas Eve who were more than happy to just stand there witnessing this whole interaction. Listen, I worked in retail during the holiday season years ago, and I'm telling you right now, fisticuffs would break out if this shit were to happen in real life. But Amy agrees to come over to Eric's house for Christmas Eve dinner. Unfortunately, on the way back to his car from the butcher shop, he gets kidnapped by those goons in the flower van. The leader of those goons, Mickey, is played by Jeffrey Combs. This bumbling gang of thieves, which includes the Kmart version of Frenchie from The Boys.
Maybe you should take the tape off of his mouth?
Do not tell me how to conduct my business.
Take the tape off his mouth.
right away.
Is looking to steal Eric's computer chip invention so they can sell it. But Grandma puts the kids to bed, and this is where the magical properties of a little wooden elf toy are revealed to the granddaughter, who is told that she can make a wish to the elf toy, and a real elf might show up and help her out.
I wish we could be a happy family again and bring Dad home. That's all I want for Christmas.
Everybody falls asleep, and the man of the hour finally shows up. No, not Santa. Wee-Man himself, baby. Wee-Man plays a depressed elf who finally gets the chance to ride along with Santa for his deliveries on Christmas Eve, but he's been assigned the role of Chief Pooper Scooper. But when Santa sees the daughter crying with the little elf toy, he intentionally ditches Wee-Man at the house so that he can fulfill her wishes.
Santa! What about me?
Elf breaks into the house using some wacky Christmas magic, and this next part is so f***ing hilarious. These kids live in a farmhouse in the middle of nowhere, but the older brother sleeps with a baseball bat by his side. Who does he think he is, Big Smoke from GTA San Andreas?
You picked the wrong house, fool! Hey, Big Smoke! It's me, Carl! Chill!
After the son assaults Elf, a dialogue exchange happens between them that is very relevant to our times.
Who let you out of the chocolate factory, dude?
I am not an Oompa Loompa.
An Oompa what now?
The kids are rude as f***, to the elf, so he storms off to wait for his ride from Santa.
Is there mistletoe in this house?
Don't worry, nobody's gonna be trying to kiss you.
Fatality.
But I guess Grandma plays a lot of Team Fortress 2 in her spare time, which gave her the idea to just absolutely rock his world with a cast iron frying pan. Elf wakes up and agrees to fulfill the daughter's wish that she made earlier. But when the butcher lady shows up, he has to hide upstairs. Meanwhile, Kmart Frenchie shows up to try to steal the energy chip. Elf scares him away with his magical mystical Christmas powers, and soon after, agrees to retrieve the kid's father from a nearby barn where he's being held captive. Elf fails to fight off the bumbling gang of thieves, because it turns out that in the North Pole, they don't teach hand-to-hand combat training. So he escapes by magically transforming a 2x4 into a snowboard and shreds his way down a hill that he also created using elf magic. Say what you will about these effects, but this is still better than any scene in Shred, the snowboarding movie that starred Wee Man's jackass castmate, Dave England. Elf admits defeat and heads up to the roof to wait for his ride from Santa. This is where one of the most important moments in cinematic history occurs, in which Elfman is finally born. There's a whole montage of the family slapping together a costume for Elf while he sits on the roof contemplating whether or not he should jump off of it. That was a joke. But Amy goes up there to deliver his costume, and this scene might just contain the most insane editing, or lack of editing, that I've ever witnessed. Amy pokes her head out of the window, crawls out, and proceeds to shimmy her way over to Elfman. By the time she makes her way over to him, 30 seconds have passed and no dialogue has been spoken. The first time I saw this, I was just dumbfounded. But I'm just gonna stop right there because this actress, Morelli Taylor, is married to Brian T in real life, aka the Drift King, and I don't want him to come to my house and beat me up. Anyway, after some convincing and another overly long roof shimmying scene, God help us all, Elf throws on his costume and finally assumes the role of Elfman. This is where the movie clearly tried to replicate the success of Home Alone, as the family is forced to protect their house from the gang of thieves. It's never actually explained in the movie, they just sort of foreshadow it earlier on, but elves are rendered powerless to mistletoe. Somehow the thieves are aware of that fact and use it to defeat Elfman and steal the chip. Inspired by his defeat, Elfman shifts into his final form using, I guess, the magic of Christmas. Dude, I don't even know. By this point in the movie, my brain started to melt. Now, this is the moment where the creatives involved with other 2012 superhero movies, like The Avengers or The Amazing Spider-Man, started thinking to themselves, maybe we won't win that award for best visual effects at the Oscars this year. Because I mean, just look at it. Elfman takes the disgusting fruitcake from earlier in the film, enlarges it with his powers, and uses it to defeat the villains once and for all. He returns the stolen chip to Eric, backflips his way out of the barn, writes his emblem in the sky, the audience gives a standing ovation, the box office explodes, and Christmas has a new hero. Alright, maybe I lied about some of those things because this movie was actually never shown in theaters and went straight to DVD and streaming. But hey, a guy could dream, right? Elfman was released on DVD and premiered to video-on-demand platforms on December 4th, 2012. But it turns out that the movie leaked out to file-sharing websites 2 days earlier. So while some people enjoyed the cinematic holiday bliss that was Elfman legally, others didn't pay a dime for it, and they would be punished for their actions just a few months later, in February of 2013. During that time, reports began surfacing that the production company behind Elfman, Elfman LLC, wow, it must have taken a lot of time and brainstorming to come up with that one, was attempting to sue over 300 alleged BitTorrent users in the states of Washington, Oregon, Missouri, Colorado, Ohio, and Illinois. Now, before we go any further, I just want to make it clear that Wee Man had nothing to do with these lawsuits. Jason Acuna was quick to distance himself from this situation, saying, "My representation has spoken to them," and by them he means Elfman LLC. "I'm not backing it at all. Has nothing to do with me. It's all them." So it turns out that Elfman LLC hired a company that, using tracking software, compiled a list of public IP addresses which were associated with illegal downloading of the movie Elfman. Elfman LLC, or actually their legal representation, worked with the courts to retrieve the names of the account holders tied to those public IP addresses. Once they had a list of names, those 300 plus individuals were sent letters informing them that they were accused of violating copyright laws and legal action would be taken. This practice is often referred to as copyright trolling. I couldn't find any specific examples of the letters sent out to the defendants in the Elfman case, but typically those letters will demand that the defendant settle out of court for a few $1,000s to sort of just make the whole thing go away, or the defendant could drag things out in court, potentially racking up hundreds of thousands of dollars in legal fees. But the issue was they didn't have any concrete evidence that those individuals downloaded the movie to begin with. As the website Torrent Freak pointed out in an article from May of 2014, some evidence gathering techniques are so sloppy that it's not even possible to confirm whether the ISP account connected to the IP address was actively sharing the pirated file in question. And it's true because if for some reason you have Wi-Fi in your home and it's not password protected, some dickhead could just pull up outside of your house, connect to your network, and download whatever they want without worrying about legal repercussions. Because of that, most of those 300 plus individuals had their cases thrown out and didn't have to pay a dime to Elfman LLC or their legal representation. Unfortunately, some of them weren't so lucky and had to cough up roughly $3,000 to the production company to settle things once and for all. But one of the defendants from Spokane, Washington didn't give in to Elfman LLC, and their fight extended all the way into January of 2015. The defendant was a single father who claimed that he had never even heard of the movie and absolutely did not download it. And this is just hilarious, but an email exchange between the Elfman legal team and the defendant's legal representation was made public through court documents. And those emails revealed that Elfman LLC tried to settle with that defendant by awarding him a total of $5,000. The defendant's legal representation absolutely declined that offer, and by the time that everything was said and done and this person's innocence was proven, Elfman LLC was forced to award him over $100,000 in attorney fees. Even though Elfman has a dark cloud over it because of some predatory copyright lawsuits, I can't deny that this is an entertaining movie. With anyone other than Wee Man in the lead role, it most likely would have been a total dumpster fire, but his presence in the film makes it worth watching. I also want to point out that Wee Man worked with the USO and multiple military branches during the time of this film's release, holding autograph signings, skate demos, and free screenings of the movie for the armed forces and their families during the holidays. That information alone should be enough to bring a tear to your eye during the holiday season. But that'll do it for today's episode. I hope you enjoyed it. I'm taking a little bit of a break from content creation for the rest of the year, but I just want to thank everyone who supported the channel this past year, and I'm excited to bring you more content in 2024. As always, thank you for watching, and I'll see you on the next one.